I remember the exact moment time stopped for me. It wasn't during some mystical retreat or a psychedelic trip in the mountains. It happened on an ordinary Thursday, at a crosswalk, coffee in hand, with emails still unread and bills unpaid. The world didn't stop, I did. Or maybe more precisely, something inside me cracked open and the layers of time began to peel like film from an old projector. That moment changed everything, because it revealed what most of us never pause long enough to see. Reality isn't fixed. It listens, it reflects, it waits for you to show up fully before responding. We think of time as linear, don't we? A timeline with a beginning, middle, and end. But that day, time felt like a spiral, breathing around me instead of dragging me forward. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once. I felt more present than I ever had, like I'd stepped out of the flow and into the control room. What I realized, what I truly felt, was that time doesn't just pass us by. We move through it, like swimmers in an invisible ocean. And depending on how we move, hurried, fragmented, distracted, grounded, aligned, the currents change. The secret no one tells us is this: time bends to presence. When we are scattered, so is reality. When we are anchored, everything starts to arrange itself around us. Presence is more than mindfulness, it's command, and we've been trained to give that command away. That morning, I stood still for maybe 30 seconds, but inside, something ancient awakened. I started seeing layers, not just the bus rushing past or the flashing light on the crosswalk, but the vibrations beneath them, the patterns, the rhythm. I heard the city breathing, and somehow it was breathing with me. In that crack between seconds, I remembered a truth I didn't know I'd forgotten. We are not passengers in reality. We are participants. This awareness didn't come wrapped in angel choirs or lightning bolts. It came like a whisper. You are the one you've been waiting for. And the codes, they started becoming clear. 4 pulses, 4 truths: earth, water, fire, air, not as poetic metaphors but as languages. Earth is structure, your body, your habits, your discipline. Water is emotion, your memories, your capacity to feel. Fire is thought, your vision, focus, and will. And air is spirit, intuition, inspiration, the signal from something greater. These 4 aren't outside forces. They live in you, in your breath, your spine, your mood swings and moments of genius. When they're out of sync, life feels chaotic. But when they're aligned, it's like the universe takes a deep breath with you and says yes. Since that day, I've started living differently. Not perfectly, but intentionally. I wake up asking, which part of me is speaking today? Is it fear or is it presence? Because fear makes time speed up, rushes you, overwhelms you, steals your focus. But presence slows everything down until you can hear reality, whispering your name. Science even backs this up. Studies in neuroscience show that our perception of time is deeply tied to emotional regulation and brainwave states. When we're anxious or overstimulated, time flies, but not in a good way. We miss it, we skip past life, but when we breathe deeply, focus, drop into ourselves, the brain shifts, the body responds, the nervous system calms, and the moment expands, creativity rises, memory deepens, and clarity, the kind you can't fake, emerges. Here's the radical part. You can learn to live from that space. It's not a gift for mystics or monks. It's a skill, a muscle, a code. Earth, ground yourself, move your body, create ritual, touch the real. Water, honor your emotions. Let them flow, don't drown in them. Fire, focus your mind. Choose one thought, one vision, and hold it. Air, connect to the bigger story. Journal, pray, meditate, or simply be silent. You don't need to fix everything in your life. You just need to tune to the right signal. And the signal is found in stillness. That day at the crosswalk was the first time I truly heard it. Now, I'm not claiming that I bend reality like some sci-fi movie hero, but I no longer live like life is happening to me. I live like life is happening with me. And that single shift from victim to participant has changed everything. So let me ask you, when was the last time you were truly present? Not scrolling, not stressing, just there? What if I told you that presence is the door? And when you walk through it, time slows, energy aligns, and the universe starts to recognize your frequency. That's the first code, and it's waiting for you. There's a strange kind of pain we all carry, a pressure in the chest, a silent scream behind our eyes, an exhaustion that sleep alone can't fix. At first I thought it was just me, just stress. But the more I looked around, the more I saw it mirrored everywhere. The earth is not just warming, it's weeping. Oceans aren't just rising, they're overflowing with emotion. Fires rage through forests like unchecked anger through our minds. And the air is thick, not just with smoke, but with fear, confusion, noise. I began to realize that the state of the planet and the state of our bodies are not separate stories. They're reflections of the same imbalance. We are the earth, we are water, we are fire, we are air. And right now, each of these elements inside us and around us is crying out for realignment. Earth, our foundation, is shaking. Anxiety, disconnection, chronic fatigue. These are not random. They're the tremors of a life ungrounded. Most of us live floating, with our feet barely touching the soil of presence. We move from screen to screen, task to task, but rarely return to the body. No wonder we feel lost. We've disconnected from the root. Water, our emotions, are either suppressed or spilling out uncontrolled. Depression is rising like sea levels. Emotional numbness is spreading like drought. When we don't allow ourselves to feel, to grieve, to flow, we stagnate. And like polluted rivers, we carry emotional toxins that block joy, love, and empathy. Fire, our mental clarity and willpower, has become an inferno. We're overstimulated, constantly on, addicted to productivity and performance. Our minds race, yet our visions blur. In the age of information, we've lost direction. Burnout is not weakness. It's a signal that the fire is burning without focus, without sacred purpose. And air, the spirit, the breath, the invisible lifeline, has been reduced to shallow gasps. In a world of endless noise, true silence is rare. We've forgotten how to breathe, how to listen, how to connect to something greater than the feed, the notifications, the opinions. The air is not just polluted outside, it's congested inside us. For a long time, I thought of these crises as separate. The forest fires in California, the floods in Pakistan, the smog in New Delhi, the anxiety attacks, the insomnia, the rising antidepressant use. But the truth is, they're part of the same energetic ecosystem. The earth is screaming, and so are we. But here's the hopeful truth. Just as these elements can be wounded, they can also be healed. When we realign internally, something begins to shift externally. It's not about saving the planet or saving ourselves. It's about remembering that the two were never apart. Here's what I started doing. Not grand gestures, just intentional ones. I began grounding, walking barefoot on the soil, not metaphorically but literally, feeling the earth, letting my body remember what stability feels like. I allowed my emotions to move, crying when I needed to, laughing out loud without apology, listening to music that cracked me open. I became water again. I focused my fire, cutting down noise, choosing one priority instead of 100 tabs. I stopped glorifying the grind and started honoring the inner architect. And I returned to air through breathwork, stillness, listening to the silence between thoughts. I didn't find God in a temple. I found connection in the pause between inhales. As I began to live these elements, something softened. Life didn't stop being hard, but it became more aligned, more fluid, more real. And here's something that blew my mind. The ancient wisdom I once thought was superstition. Modern science is catching up. Grounding, or earthing, reduces inflammation and improves sleep. Tears carry stress hormones. Crying, literally, releases trauma. Focused attention boosts neural plasticity and rewires the brain. Deep breathing activates the vagus nerve, calming the nervous system. These aren't just practices, they're codes. And when we follow them, the body listens. And so does the world. We keep searching for healing in data, in diagnoses, in downloads. But the truth, healing is ancient, it's elemental, it's already inside us. The crises outside are urgent, but they're also invitations to remember, to return, to realign. We are not separate from nature. We are not separate from each other. We are not separate from the frequency we broadcast. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us realign within, the earth will start to breathe easier too. Because healing isn't a solo act. It's a resonance, a ripple, a return. For most of my life, I thought my brain was just a tool for thinking, like a computer collecting data, solving problems, making decisions. But what I've come to realize is this: the brain isn't just hardware. It's a transmitter, a tuner, a temple. And just like a radio, what you tune into determines what you experience. We're taught to worship the intellect, to live in our heads, to rationalize, to hustle, to overthink. That's beta, the problem-solving, alert, logical state. It's where most of the world lives. And don't get me wrong, it's useful. Beta gets you to work, helps you meet deadlines, keeps you alive in a crisis. But beta also carries the weight of stress. It's where anxiety lives, where the mind loops, where insomnia breeds. It's survival mode. And no one was meant to live in survival forever. The real magic begins when you start to explore the other rooms in the house of your mind. The alpha state is like a quiet afternoon in your favorite place. It's the gateway to creativity, flow, and intuition. It's where music hits different, where ideas come without force. It's the bridge between your logical mind and your energetic body. When I first dropped into alpha intentionally, through slow breathing and focus, I felt myself sync with the world instead of fighting it. Then there's theta, deeper, dreamier. This is the realm of subconscious reprogramming, of visions, healing, and pattern breaking. I access theta during deep meditation or just before sleep. It's where I've rewritten old stories, faced past versions of myself, and planted new beliefs that actually stick. Theta is not about trying, it's about surrendering to the frequency of change. And finally, there's delta, the sacred silence, the state of pure stillness. Most people only touch delta during deep, dreamless sleep. But with practice, I've felt glimpses of it while awake, those rare moments of complete peace when the ego disappears and only awareness remains. Mystics call it communion. Scientists call it regeneration. I call it home. These four states, beta, alpha, theta, delta, aren't random. They are not just waves on a chart. They are keys, frequencies, maps, and when you learn how to move between them intentionally, reality itself begins to shift. What changed my life was realizing that I could train my brain, not just to think better, but to access different layers of consciousness depending on what I needed. When I needed clarity and action, beta. When I needed creativity and openness, alpha. When I needed healing and rewiring, theta. When I needed deep reset and guidance, delta. Each state holds power, but most of us are stuck in beta, trying to solve spiritual problems with logical tools. It's like trying to paint a sunset with a calculator. Science has begun to catch up with this ancient wisdom. Neurofeedback therapy, binaural beats, and brainwave training are proving that we can shift our consciousness, not through chemicals, but through intention and attention. When I started meditating with brainwave frequencies, I noticed my reactions to life changing. I was less reactive, more aware. Decisions flowed. Patterns began to break, not because I forced them to, but because I was operating from a higher frequency. It's like the difference between fighting waves and learning to surf them. Your brain isn't broken, it's just been locked in one room for too long, and now you have the key. Here's what I've learned about each state, not from textbooks, but from experience. Beta is earth. It grounds you in the physical, but traps you in survival if you don't step back. Alpha is water, fluid, emotional, creative. It's the space where ideas become magnetic. Theta is fire, transformative, deep, illuminating. It burns through the past and lights the way forward. Delta is air, silent, infinite, spiritual. It's where you remember you are more than your story. These brainwaves aren't just scientific data. They are the four elements of mind. And when they work together, aligned and balanced, your inner world becomes a fertile field for change. You stop chasing life. You start creating it. I wish someone had told me earlier that you don't need to escape your mind. You need to tune it, like music, like light, like the universe itself. Because at the end of the day, your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are signals. They are blueprints. They are the architecture of reality. So the next time you feel stuck, chaotic, or lost, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ante, "What wave am I riding?" And then shift the station. You are not your mind. You are the one who moves it, and now you have the codes. We speak over 7,000 words a day. Most of them we don't even notice. They pass through our lips or swirl silently in our minds like background noise. But here's the truth that cracked my reality open. Words are not just communication. They are creation. Every sentence, every phrase, every thought is either building something or breaking. I used to say things like, "I'm terrible at this," or "Nothing ever works out for me," thinking it was harmless self-deprecation. But over time, those phrases didn't just reflect my reality. They became it. My body reacted. My energy shifted. Life mirrored my language. It's not just metaphor, it's science. Neuroscientists have found that repeated language, especially emotionally charged language, rewires the brain. Words signal hormones. They prime your nervous system. Your cells are listening. That changed everything for me. It meant that every thought I entertained, every story I repeated in my mind, wasn't neutral. It was a spell. And most of us, we've been casting spells against ourselves for years. But here's the secret. Just as we were programmed by language, we can reprogram with language. It begins with identity. I used to say affirmations like, "I am successful," while my body screamed, "Liar," because deep down, I didn't believe it. That's why it didn't work. Affirmations aren't magic words. They're not supposed to convince your mind. They're supposed to match your energy. And if they don't, the mismatch creates more doubt, not less. So I started doing it differently. Instead of pretending to be someone I wasn't, I started speaking from the version of me that already existed within. The one I was growing into. The version that already held the energy of where I wanted to go. It wasn't, "I hope to be aligned." It was, "I return to alignment." Not, "I want to be loved," but "I remember that I am love." Not, "I wish I had purpose," but "I choose to move with purpose now." Those weren't just words, they were activations. And when I began using language this way, consciously, congruently, my world shifted. My relationships changed. Opportunities started flowing. Even my health improved. Why? Because language is energy, and energy is reality's blueprint. Think about it. Before anything is built, it's described. Before any action is taken, there is thought. Before any decision, a dialogue. The mind doesn't act without narrative. If your internal narrator is constantly whispering fear, doubt, or scarcity, your actions will follow that script, even if you don't realize it. But when you change the narration, the story must evolve. This isn't positive thinking. This is energetic precision. What you say repeatedly, you instruct your nervous system to accept as truth. What you visualize and verbalize consistently, you invite into form. You're not just speaking desires into the air. You're aligning with a frequency, a signal. And the universe, it echoes that signal back. So I stopped asking, what do I want? And I started asking, who do I need to be to hold the reality I seek? Then I spoke from that place. Not perfectly, but intentionally. And here's the wild part. Science confirms this. Epigenetics tells us that emotional energy, belief, and perception influence gene expression. Your body listens to your belief systems. Your immune system, your mood, even your ability to heal, all of it is affected by what you speak, what you repeat, and what you silently accept. It's not just wishful thinking, it's biology. Your words can literally reshape your cells. And that brings us to fire. In the 4 codes, fire is the mind, the will, the directive force. And what is the most powerful tool of the mind? Speech. Fire can destroy, but it can also forge. And when we use words with clarity, congruence, and alignment, they forge worlds. So I became more intentional. I edited my inner dialogue like a sacred manuscript. I rewrote default scripts that said I can't, I never, I always mess up, and replaced them with living truths. I'm still learning. I'm open to change. I create space for growth. Not fake positivity, real, grounded recalibration. And the results? They weren't instant fireworks. They were subtle, sustainable shifts. Days with more flow. Fewer inner battles, clearer decisions, unexpected help. Because when the internal language shifts, the external reality eventually has to catch up. So now I speak differently, not just to others, but to myself. Because I know the world doesn't respond to what I want. It responds to what I believe I am. Wanting implies separation. Being radiates presence. And the language of being is silent, strong, and clear. You don't have to fake confidence. You have to speak from the part of you that already remembers. Your power, because that voice, it's not made up, it's made real. Every time you choose your words like you're writing your life's script, you move from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. And that's the 4th flame, language as law, word as wand, voice as vortex. You're not casting spells anymore, you're building truth. There was a time I believed the world was just how it is, that this system of 9-to-5 routines, rising, prices, constant notifications, and quiet desperation was normal. That stress was a side effect of ambition. That anxiety was just part of adulthood. But somewhere along the way, I started asking questions, not out loud at first, just inside. Why does it feel like I'm surviving a life I didn't choose? Why does everything seem designed to keep me busy, but not free? That was the first crack in the matrix. And once I saw the crack, I couldn't unsee it. This matrix isn't made of wires and circuits. It's made of beliefs, agreements, and fears. It's a mental construct, a psychic trap. It's built on the idea that you are not enough unless you earn, prove, perform, and here's the kicker. It only exists if you agree to play. Every time you chase validation. Every time you silence your intuition to be accepted. Every time you ignore your body's signals just to push through. You are feeding the matrix. It's not evil, it's efficient. It runs on default. But when you wake up, even for a second, you feel the pull of something ancient and wild and real inside you. And that's where the exit begins. It's not dramatic. It's not about fleeing society or deleting every app. It's subtle, subversive. It starts with one radical act, sovereignty, reclaiming the right to be the author of your own rhythm, to live by inner alignment, not external pressure, to say no without guilt, to say yes without explanation, escaping. The Matrix isn't about rebellion, it's about remembrance. Remembering that you are a soul, not a role, that you are a creator, not a consumer, that your power was never meant to be outsourced to systems, trends, or approval ratings. I started opting out quietly at first. I turned off the noise. I paused before reacting. I questioned narratives that told me who to be, how to live, what to fear. And the more I did that, the more I noticed the code unravel. The need to rush faded. The obsession with being productive dissolved. The comparison game lost its grip. In its place, something deeper rose up. Presence, creativity, freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from false identities. I stopped trying to fit in, and for the first time, I began to feel real. But here's the truth they don't advertise. The system doesn't crash when you leave it. It ignores you. And that's the gift, because when you are no longer recognizable, to the Matrix, you become untouchable. Not by hiding, but by radiating a frequency it can't control. This is where the four codes all converge. When your earth is rooted in authenticity, when your water flows with truth, when your fire directs with clarity, when your air receives without distortion, you're no longer programmable. You don't need permission to speak. You don't need validation to feel worthy. You don't need fear to stay focused. The Matrix depends on you forgetting who you are. Your freedom depends on you remembering. And when you do, when you really remember, it's not just your life that changes. It's your reality. Time becomes spacious, synchronicities multiply, opportunities align. You're not forcing outcomes, you're magnetizing them. You're not hustling for worth, you're walking in it. And yes, the world may still spin, in its noise and madness and programming. But you'll move like still water through fire, like breath through walls, like presence through illusion. Because freedom isn't found on the outside, it's coded in your soul. And now, you've cracked the code. So if this resonated with you, if something inside you stirred, whispered, awakened, then you're not just watching a video, you're remembering. And that's how the new reality begins. Let's build it together. If this message found you, it's because you're already part of the shift. Now breathe deep, stand tall, and take the next step, unapologetically, intentionally, awake. Welcome back to yourself.